They knew I was coming, the burned woman whispered, her scorched fingers clutching Marcus Cole's navy uniform. Blood and melted fabric mixed on the snow. The children. Basement. Midnight. They'll disappear forever. Then her eyes rolled back. Marcus had found broken soldiers in Afghanistan. He had carried dying brothers through hellfire. But this 25-year-old FBI agent, crawling from a burning wreck on a frozen Montana road, spoke words that turned his blood to ice. Children. Basement. Midnight. His retired military canine, Storm, circled the wreckage once, then pointed his nose toward the mountain where Pinecrest Academy sat, like a secret waiting to be torn open. Before we continue, tell me, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this story travels. And please, like and subscribe to follow this journey to the very end. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Marcus Cole hadn't slept through the night in 3 years. Not since Kandahar. Not since the explosion that killed 4 members of his team, while he survived with nothing but a scar across his ribs and a guilt that wouldn't stop whispering. Tonight, like every night, he drove. His truck moved through the darkness outside Ridgecrest, Montana, headlights cutting through February cold that bit at -20. Storm sat in the passenger seat, 70 pounds of muscle and instinct, his tan and black coat catching the dashboard light whenever they passed a road marker. The German Shepherd was watching him, always watching. "I know," Marcus said quietly. "I should be home." Storm's ears rotated forward. "Don't give me that look." The dog exhaled through his nose, a sound Marcus had learned to translate over 6 years of partnership. It meant, "You're not fooling anyone." Marcus's phone sat dark on the center console. No messages, no calls. His mother had been dead for 11 months. His father had been gone longer than that. Not dead, just disappeared into a bottle and a silence that felt permanent. 35 years old, former Navy SEAL, 2 Purple Hearts, a silver star he kept in a drawer because looking at it made him sick. And now? Now he drove mountain roads at midnight because stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant remembering, and remembering meant... Storm moved. Not a small shift. A full-body alert that Marcus hadn't seen since their last deployment. The dog's hackles rose. His nose pressed against the passenger window. A sound rolled from his throat, low, urgent, ancient. Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. "What is it?" Storm didn't look at him. The dog's entire being was pointed towards something outside, something in the darkness beyond the tree line. "Storm! Report!" The German Shepherd whined, a sound of barely contained urgency, then pressed his paw against the door. Marcus had learned to trust that instinct. In Fallujah, Storm had detected an IED that sensors missed. In Kabul, he had found a wounded Marine buried under rubble when everyone else had given up searching. Marcus pulled the truck onto the shoulder. Gravel crunched, cold flooded through the gap as he cracked his door. "Show me." Storm launched from the vehicle before Marcus finished speaking. The dog hit the snow and ran. Not the excited run of an animal chasing a scent, but the focused sprint of a soldier who knew exactly where the enemy was. Marcus followed. His boots broke through the frozen crust. His breath came in white clouds. The Navy uniform he still wore, NWU Type 3, green and brown digital camouflage, offered little protection against the Montana winter, but he didn't slow down. Storm had stopped ahead. The dog stood rigid at the edge of a ravine, staring down at something Marcus couldn't yet see. No barking, no sound at all, just that terrible stillness that meant death was close. Marcus reached the edge. Below, maybe 30 feet down, an SUV burned. Flames licked through shattered windows. Smoke rose black against the snow. And crawling away from the wreckage, dragging herself through the white with agonizing slowness, was a woman. "Hey!" Marcus shouted. "Stay still! I'm coming down!" She didn't respond, just kept crawling, leaving a dark trail behind her that Marcus recognized immediately. Blood. A lot of it. He half ran, half slid down the embankment. Storm followed, sure-footed where Marcus struggled. The cold hit harder down here, mixed with heat from the burning vehicle and a chemical smell that made Marcus's eyes water. The woman had collapsed face down in the snow. Marcus dropped to his knees beside her. His training took over. Airway, breathing, circulation. He turned her carefully, supporting her neck, and what he saw made his stomach clench. She was young, maybe 25. Long, dark brown hair matted with blood and ash. Her face was streaked with soot, but beneath it, her features were sharp and determined, even in unconsciousness. An FBI badge hung from a lanyard around her neck, half melted but still readable. Special Agent Elena Vance. Her arms were the worst. The skin from her elbows to her wrists was blistered and raw. Defensive wounds, Marcus realized. She had shielded her face from the fire with her forearms. "Agent Vance," he tapped her cheek gently. "Can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered. Green, bright green, even clouded with pain. "They knew," she whispered. "Who knew? What happened?" "Ran me off the road." Her voice was sandpaper against glass. "Black truck, no plates. They knew I was coming." Storm circled them once, then positioned himself between the burning SUV and the woman, standing guard. Marcus pulled out his phone. 1 bar of signal. Enough. "This is Marcus Cole. I need emergency services at mile marker 47 on Ridge Mountain Road. Female victim, late 20s. Severe burns to arms and neck, possible internal injuries. Vehicle fire, potential crime scene." The dispatcher's voice crackled. "Help is on the way, sir. 20 minutes. 20 minutes. In this cold, with those injuries, 20 minutes might as well be forever. Marcus shrugged off his jacket and covered Elena with it. She was shivering now. A good sign, actually. Shivering meant her body was still fighting. "Stay with me, Agent Vance. Help is coming." Her hand shot out and grabbed his uniform. Grip stronger than it should have been. Eyes suddenly focused. "Listen to me," she said. "Pinecrest Academy. The wilderness camp on the mountain." Marcus knew the place. Everyone in Ridgecrest knew it. Victor Harlan's flagship charity project. A rehabilitation facility for troubled teenagers. Harlan himself had funded the new wing of the local hospital. He'd paid for the high school's football field. The man was practically a saint. What about it? Children are disappearing. Elena's grip tightened. Trafficking ring, operating for at least 3 years. Kids check in, they never check out. Falsified records, bought coroner, bought sheriff. Marcus felt the cold settle deeper into his bones. And this cold had nothing to do with the weather. Sheriff Dawson? Don't trust him. Tears cut tracks through the ash on her face. Don't trust anyone in this town. They're moving the children tonight. Midnight. After that, her voice broke. After that, there's no evidence, no witnesses, nothing. Storm whined and pressed closer to Elena, as if he could shield her from her own words. Marcus checked his watch. 9:52 p.m. 2 hours and 8 minutes. How many children? At least 4, maybe more. I had files. Elena's eyes went to the burning SUV. Gone now. All gone. 3 months of work. 3 months of getting close, and they... She started coughing. Blood flecked her lips. Stop talking.
Save your strength.
No. She pulled him closer with surprising force.
You have to understand. I came alone because I couldn't trust the Bureau. My supervisor dismissed me, said I was seeing conspiracies. But I have proof, had proof, and now I'm going to die on this road, and those kids—
You're not going to die.
You don't know that.
I know you're still arguing with me. Dying people don't argue this much. A sound escaped her, almost a laugh, quickly swallowed by pain.
Who are you?
Marcus Cole.
The Navy SEAL.
Her eyes cleared slightly. Jenna Cole's son. I read about you. Silver Star. Kandahar.
Ancient history.
You saved 11 people from a burning convoy. Marcus said nothing. The memory was a wound that never quite closed.
So save these kids.
Elena's voice dropped to a whisper.
Please. I don't care if I make it, but those children.
You're both going to make it.
You don't even know me.
Marcus looked at Storm. The dog hadn't moved from his protective position, eyes fixed on Elena like she was already part of their pack. My dog knows you, Marcus said. That's enough. Sirens wailed in the distance. Red and blue lights flickered through the trees. Elena's grip finally loosened. There's a man, Victor Harlan's accountant, Owen Mercer. He reached out to me 2 weeks ago, said he wanted to talk. I was supposed to meet him tomorrow. She coughed again.
He might be the only honest person left in this town.
Where do I find him? Cabin on Miller's Creek, east side. He's scared, but he's not evil. He kept records, real records, everything Harlan tried to hide. The ambulance burst through the tree line above. Paramedics scrambled down the embankment with a stretcher. Elena grabbed Marcus one more time. Her burned fingers left marks on his uniform.
The children, she said. Promise me.
Marcus had made promises before, in dusty villages and bombed-out buildings, to dying friends and frightened civilians. He had learned that promises were dangerous things, easy to make, impossible to keep. But Storm was watching him, and the dog's eyes held something Marcus hadn't seen there in a long time. Purpose. I promise, Marcus said. The paramedics took over. They loaded Elena onto the stretcher, started an IV, wrapped her burns with sterile gauze. She kept her eyes on Marcus until they lifted her into the ambulance. Storm found me, she called out. Don't forget that. Your dog found me when no one else was looking. The ambulance doors closed. Sirens screamed as it pulled away. Marcus stood in the blood-stained snow, his dog pressed against his leg, and stared at the burning SUV as firefighters arrived to extinguish it. Someone had run an FBI agent off the road. Someone had tried to burn her alive. And somewhere on that mountain, children were waiting to disappear. Marcus looked at Storm. What do you think, boy? Feel like working tonight? Storm's tail wagged once, a sharp, decisive motion. That was answer enough. Marcus drove toward the hospital first, not because he doubted Elena's story, but because he needed to see something for himself. The emergency room was controlled chaos. Nurses moved with efficient urgency. A doctor shouted orders about burn treatment and pain management. And standing in the hallway, watching it all with an expression of practiced concern, was Sheriff Hank Dawson. Dawson was 53, thick around the middle, with a face that had learned to smile even when the eyes stayed cold. He had been sheriff for 11 years, re-elected 3 times. Everyone in Ridgecrest said he was a good man, but Elena Vance said not to trust him. Marcus approached slowly, Storm at his heel. Marcus Cole. Dawson turned with an expression of surprise that didn't quite reach his eyes. Hell of a night. Heard you found that federal agent on the road. Word travels fast. Small town, you know how it is. Dawson's gaze dropped to Storm. That dog of yours found her? He has a talent for finding things people want to stay hidden. Something flickered across Dawson's face. There and gone. She's lucky. Burns like that, middle of nowhere. Another hour and she'd have been a popsicle. Dawson shook his head. Any idea what she was doing out there? She's FBI. Probably had federal business. In Ridgecrest? Dawson laughed, a sound like gravel shifting. What federal business happens in Ridgecrest? Marcus kept his face neutral. You'd have to ask her. I intend to, once she's stable enough for questions. Dawson clapped Marcus on the shoulder. You did good tonight. Real good. Why don't you head home, get some rest? Let us handle it from here. Sure, Sheriff. Appreciate it. Marcus turned away. He made it 3 steps before Dawson spoke again. Marcus. He stopped. Your daddy ever talk to you about the land deal? The one with Harlan, back in '09? Ice formed in Marcus's chest. What about it? Nothing. Just wondered. Dawson's voice was light, casual, too casual. That camp up on the mountain, Pinecrest Academy. It sits on land your family used to own. Did you know that? I knew. Harlan paid good money for it. Helped your folks out of a tough spot, way I heard it. Marcus turned back, looked Dawson straight in the eyes. Is there a point to this, Sheriff? Dawson smiled. Just making conversation. Small town stuff. You know how it is. Marcus held his gaze for 3 seconds. 4. 5. Then he walked away, Storm matching his stride. He waited until they were in the truck, doors closed, before he let himself breathe. He knows, Marcus said quietly. He knows why she's here. Storm pressed his nose against Marcus's hand. The dashboard clock read 10:24 p.m. 96 minutes until midnight. Owen Mercer's cabin was exactly where Elena said it would be. A small structure on the east side of Miller's Creek, hidden from the main road by a thick stand of pine trees. No lights in the windows, no smoke from the chimney. But a car sat in the driveway, and Marcus could see footprints in the snow leading to the front door. Wait here, he told Storm. The dog whined in protest. I know, but if this goes wrong, I need you to run. Find help. Understand? Storm's eyes held his for a long moment. Then the dog settled back in his seat, obedient, but unhappy about it. Marcus approached the cabin. He didn't bother with stealth. If Mercer was as scared as Elena suggested, sneaking up on him would only make things worse. He knocked on the door. Owen Mercer? My name is Marcus Cole. I'm a friend of Elena Vance. Silence. She's hurt. Someone ran her off the road tonight. She told me to find you. More silence. Then, how do I know you're not one of them? The voice came from inside, thin, trembling, but present. You don't, Marcus said. But if I were one of them, I wouldn't be knocking. A pause. Then the sound of locks disengaging, 3 of them. The door cracked open, and a pale face appeared in the gap. Owen Mercer was 46 years old, according to Elena's files, but he looked 60. Gray hair receding from a forehead lined with stress, eyes red from sleeplessness, hands that shook as they held the door. Is she alive? Owen whispered. Yes, hospital, critical but stable. Owen's eyes closed. Thank God. Thank God. She said you have records, real records, everything Victor Harlan tried to hide. Owen flinched at the name. Not here. I buried them. Couldn't risk. He stopped, looked past Marcus at the dark trees. Did anyone follow you? No. Are you sure? I was a Navy SEAL for 12 years, Mr. Mercer. I'm sure. Owen studied him for a long moment. Then he opened the door wider. Come in, quickly, before they see. The cabin was sparse. A couch, a table, a small kitchen. Every window had its curtains drawn. A police scanner sat on the counter, crackling with occasional traffic. Owen locked the door behind Marcus. All 3 locks. "How much did she tell you?" Owen asked. "Enough. Children disappearing, trafficking ring, midnight deadline." Owen sank onto the couch like his legs had given out. "It's been going on for 3 years," he said. "Maybe longer. I didn't know at first. I just did the books. Harlan paid well, never asked questions, and I—" His voice cracked. "I have a daughter. She's 12. When I figured out what was really happening, I wanted to go to the police. But Dawson is part of it. Dawson, the coroner, half the county officials. Harlan owns this town. Not on paper, but where it counts." Owen rubbed his face with trembling hands. "The kids who come to Pinecrest, they're not troubled teenagers getting wilderness therapy. They're runaways, foster kids, children nobody's looking for. And the ones who meet the criteria, they don't leave through the front door." Marcus felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. "Where do they go?" "I don't know exactly. Overseas, mostly. Harlan has connections, buyers, people who—" Owen couldn't finish the sentence. "I kept copies of everything. Financial records, transport manifests, names, dates, amounts. I buried them under the floorboards in my pantry because I knew someday—" He stopped. His eyes went to the window. "Did you hear that?" Marcus hadn't heard anything, but Storm, still in the truck outside, suddenly started barking, sharp, urgent, warning. "Get down," Marcus said. The window exploded inward. Glass sprayed across the room. Marcus hit the floor, pulling Owen with him. Something thudded against the wall, a canister trailing smoke. "Tear gas." "Back door!" Marcus shouted. "Now!" They stumbled through the kitchen, eyes streaming, lungs burning. Marcus kicked the back door open and pushed Owen through. Outside, Storm was already there, having jumped from the truck window and circled the cabin. The dog's teeth were bared, hackles raised. 3 figures emerged from the tree line. Black clothing, face masks, moving with professional coordination. Not cops, not amateurs. Professionals. Marcus put himself between the men and Owen. "Stay behind me." The lead figure raised a weapon. Not a gun, a taser. "Mr. Mercer," the man said calmly, "Mr. Harlan would like to discuss your recent communications." Owen whimpered. Marcus stepped forward. "He's not going anywhere with you." "This doesn't concern you, sailor. Walk away." "I don't think I will." Storm growled, a sound that came from somewhere deep and ancient. The lead figure hesitated. He looked at the dog, then at Marcus. "You really want to do this?" "I promised someone I'd protect those kids." Marcus's voice was flat, hard. "That starts with protecting him." For a moment, nothing moved. Then the taser fired. Marcus was already moving. 12 years of combat training turned his body into a weapon before his conscious mind could catch up. He deflected the first man's arm, redirected the taser into the second man's chest. The weapon discharged with a crackling pop, and the second man went down. The third man swung a baton. Marcus caught it, twisted, felt bone grind against bone as the wrist gave way. The man screamed. Storm hit the leader from behind, 70 pounds of fury and precision targeting the back of the knee. The man collapsed. Storm pinned him, teeth inches from his throat. 10 seconds. 3 men down. Marcus wasn't even breathing hard. "Owen," he said, without turning around. "Get in my truck. Now!" Owen ran. Marcus knelt beside the leader. The man's eyes were wide with pain and fear above his mask. "Who sent you?" "Go to hell." Storm pressed down slightly. The man gasped. "I'll ask once more. Who sent you?" "Dawson," the man spat. "Dawson called it in. Said Mercer was talking to feds. Marcus stood, looked at Storm. Guard. The dog stayed in position, making it clear that any movement would be a very bad idea.
Marcus walked to his truck, where Owen huddled in the passenger seat, shaking. "The records," Marcus said. "Where exactly?" Owen gave him the address, the specific location, the details. Marcus pulled out his phone, one number he hadn't called in 2 years. Javier Santos answered on the second ring. "Brother," Javier said, his voice thick with sleep. "Do you know what time it is?" "I need you." Silence. Then, "What kind of need?" "Children being trafficked out of Ridgecrest. Local law is compromised. FBI agent in the hospital. I'm standing over 3 men who just tried to kidnap a witness." Marcus paused. "Midnight deadline. After that, the evidence disappears." "How many kids?" "At least 4. Another silence, shorter this time. "Give me an address. I'll be there in 40 minutes. "Bring weapons." "Was planning on it." Javier hung up. Marcus looked at Owen Mercer. The accountant was crying now, silent tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry," Owen whispered. "I should have said something sooner. I should have—" "You're saying something now." Marcus started the truck. "That's what matters." He checked the dashboard clock. 11:07 p.m. 53 minutes. Storm jumped into the truck bed, taking a position where he could watch all directions at once. And somewhere on the mountain above them, children waited to disappear into a darkness they might never escape. Marcus drove toward Owen's cabin to retrieve the records. The floorboards came up easier than expected. Beneath them sat a fireproof safe, small but heavy. Owen punched in the code with shaking fingers. Inside, flash drives, hard copies, photographs. Marcus flipped through the documents quickly. Names, dates, wire transfers, transport manifests disguised as camping equipment deliveries, and photographs. Children. Dozens of them. Faces blurred, but ages clear. 8, 10, 12, 14. Next to each photo, a number. A price. Marcus had seen evil before. In war zones and interrogation rooms. In the eyes of men who killed without remorse. But this was different. This was systematic, organized, industrial. "How many?" Marcus asked, his voice barely recognizable. "Since I started working there, 47 confirmed. Maybe more." Owen was crying openly now. "I told myself I didn't know for sure, that maybe I was wrong. But I knew. God help me, I knew, and I did nothing." Marcus closed the safe. "You're doing something now. That's the only redemption any of us get." His phone buzzed. Javier. 10 minutes out. May is with me. She insisted. May Chen, army nurse. Tough as they came. Owed Marcus for pulling her brother out of Helmand province. "Good," Marcus texted back. "We're going to need her." He looked at the documents one more time, then at Owen. "Tonight, we're getting those kids out. All of them. And then we're burning Victor Harlan's empire to the ground." Owen met his eyes. For the first time, something other than fear flickered there. "Tell me what you need me to do." Outside, Storm barked once, sharp and clear. Headlights appeared on the road. 2 vehicles. Javier's truck, followed by May's SUV. The cavalry had arrived. But the clock kept ticking. 11:41 p.m., 19 minutes to midnight. And somewhere up that mountain, 4 children were running out of time. Javier Santos stepped out of his truck with the calm efficiency of a man who had seen worse nights and survived them all. 6'2", shoulders like a linebacker,
a thick scar running from his left ear to his jaw, a souvenir from Mosul that he wore without apology. Behind him, Mei Chen emerged from her SUV, compact and quick-moving, her medical bag already slung across her shoulder. 19 minutes, Javier said, checking his watch. You really know how to cut things close, brother. Wouldn't be any fun otherwise. May moved straight to Owen, assessing him with sharp eyes. You hurt? No, scared, but not hurt. Good. Stay that way. She turned to Marcus. What's the play? Marcus spread Owen's documents across the hood of his truck. The photographs caught the moonlight. Children's faces, blurred but haunting. Pinecrest Academy. 4 kids minimum, possibly more. They're moving them at midnight. Private airstrip 40 miles east. Javier studied the papers. His jaw tightened. Harlan's behind this? Harlan, Sheriff Dawson, half the county leadership. Marcus pointed to a transport manifest. They've been running this operation for at least 3 years. Kids nobody's looking for, runaways, foster children, the ones who fall through the cracks. May's hand trembled slightly as she looked at the photographs. She had a niece that age. How do we stop it? We hit the camp before midnight, extract the children, secure evidence. Marcus looked at Javier. You brought hardware? Javier walked to his truck bed and pulled back a tarp. Beneath it, tactical vests, night vision equipment, zip ties, and enough firepower to start a small war. I brought hardware. Storm jumped down from Marcus's truck and moved to Javier, pressing against his leg in greeting. Javier scratched behind the dog's ears. Hey boy, ready to work? Storm's tail wagged once, sharp, decisive. Owen stepped forward, his voice cracking. There's something you need to know. The camp, it has security. Ex-military guys, like the ones who came to my cabin. At least 6, maybe 8. Armed? Yes. And they're not just guards, they're enforcers. When a kid tries to run, they... Owen couldn't finish. Marcus met Javier's eyes. An entire conversation passed in that glance. 4 of us against 8 professionals, Javier said. Plus whatever local law Dawson sends when things go loud. 4 of us, Marcus repeated. And Storm. Right. 5. May pulled a small pistol from her bag. A Glock 19, well maintained. I'm not staying in the car. Didn't expect you to. Marcus's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Cole. Mr. Cole. The voice was smooth, cultured, carrying the easy confidence of a man who had never been told no. My name is Victor Harlan. I believe we have a mutual friend in the hospital tonight. Marcus's blood went cold. He put the phone on speaker. Agent Vance was very persistent, Harlan continued. I admire persistence. It's a quality I value in my employees. Unfortunately, she chose to be persistent about the wrong things. What do you want, Harlan? I want to offer you an opportunity. You're a decorated veteran, a hero. Men like you deserve recognition. Compensation. A pause. I'm prepared to offer you $200,000 to walk away from this. Tonight. Right now. You take your dog, your friends, and you go home. By morning, this will all be forgotten. Marcus looked at the photographs on his truck hood. Children's faces. And the kids? What children? I run a rehabilitation center, Mr. Cole. Our graduates go on to lead productive lives. Ask anyone in Ridgecrest. I'm a pillar of this community. I've seen your records, Harlan. I know what you are. Silence. When Harlan spoke again, the smoothness had cracked, revealing something cold underneath. Owen Mercer is a disturbed man with a grudge. Whatever he's shown you is fabrication, forgery. It won't hold up in court. Maybe not, but I'm not planning to take you to court. Another pause. Longer this time. You're making a mistake, Mr. Cole. A very serious mistake. I have friends in high places, federal judges, congressmen, people who owe me favors. If you interfere tonight, I will destroy you. Your military record, your reputation, everything you've built, I will burn it all to ash. I've been burned before.
And your friends? Your nurse? Your soldier buddy? Are they willing to burn too?
Javier leaned toward the phone. Hey Harlan, this is Javier Santos, Navy SEAL, retired. Just wanted to say, we've burned for less worthy causes than kids. See you soon. He ended the call. The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats.
Well,
May said quietly, that's that. Marcus looked at his team, his family really, the family he had chosen in blood and fire. Anyone wants to walk away, now's the time. No judgment. Nobody moved. Okay then. Marcus checked his watch. 14 minutes. Let's go get those kids. They approached Pinecrest Academy from the north, using a logging road that Owen remembered from his visits. The accountant's hands shook on the wheel of May's SUV, but his directions were precise. Main building is in the center. Administration, classrooms, the facade. Owen's voice steadied as he focused on details. The real operation is in the basement of the East Wing. Underground bunker, steel doors. That's where they keep them before transport. Security positions? 2 at the main gate, 2 patrolling the perimeter, the rest inside. Owen swallowed. And there's something else. The children. They're drugged before transport. Sedatives. They won't be able to walk. May's face went hard. Then we carry them. Marcus was in Javier's truck, Storm between them, watching the darkness ahead. The dog's ears rotated constantly, processing sounds no human could detect. Storm, Marcus said quietly. Find... The German shepherd's nose lifted. Worked. Then he pointed, not toward the main gate, but toward the eastern perimeter. Side entrance? Javier asked. Storm thinks so. Your dog's never wrong. No, he's not. They parked the vehicles half a mile out and moved on foot. Marcus took point, Storm at his side. Javier covered the rear. May and Owen stayed in the middle. The camp appeared through the trees, buildings arranged in a neat semicircle, lights glowing warm and welcoming. It looked like exactly what it claimed to be, a place of healing and hope. The lie made Marcus's stomach turn. Storm stopped suddenly. His body went rigid. Marcus raised a fist. Everyone froze. 20 feet ahead, a figure moved through the shadows. Security patrol. Armed with an AR-15, wearing night vision goggles. The man hadn't seen them yet. He was checking his phone, distracted. Marcus looked at Javier, pointed, circled his finger. Javier nodded and disappeared into the darkness. 30 seconds later, the guard made a soft sound, surprise more than pain, and crumpled. Javier emerged, zip-tying the man's hands behind his back. One down, he whispered. They kept moving. The East Wing's side entrance was locked, but Owen had a key. I was supposed to destroy it, he murmured as he worked the lock. When I quit, Harlan asked for all my keys back. I told him I'd lost this one. Why did you keep it? Owen looked at Marcus. His eyes were wet. Because I knew. Deep down, I always knew I'd need to come back. I just didn't have the courage. The door opened. They slipped inside. The hallway was dark, lit only by emergency lights along the floor. Storm's nails clicked softly on the linoleum as he moved ahead, nose working. Owen pointed. Stairs at the end, down 1 level. The bunker door is reinforced steel. A radio crackled somewhere ahead. Voices. Footsteps. Marcus pressed against the wall, pulling Owen with him. Javier and May took the opposite side. Two guards appeared around the corner, laughing about something. Casual. Comfortable. They never saw it coming. Marcus hit the first one in the throat, cutting off any sound.
Javier took the second, a precise strike to the temple that dropped him instantly.
They zip-tied both men and kept moving.
"How many is that?"
May whispered. 4 down, at least 4 more. The stairwell door was ahead. Storm reached it first and paused, his nose pressed to the crack at the bottom. Then he growled. Not a warning this time. A statement. They're here. Marcus pulled the door open. The stairs descended into darkness.
And from somewhere below came a sound that made his blood freeze. A child crying. They found the bunker door exactly where Owen said it would be. Steel, reinforced. A keypad lock glowing red in the darkness. "I don't have the code," Owen said. "It changed after I left." Marcus examined the lock. Military grade. The kind designed to resist anything short of explosives. "Javier? Give me 30 seconds. Javier pulled a small device from his vest. A bypass tool that definitely wasn't standard issue. He connected it to the keypad and went to work. Storm stood rigid beside Marcus, staring at the door. The crying had stopped, replaced by silence that felt worse. "Come on," May murmured. "Come on, come on." The lock beeped. Green light. Javier pulled the door open. The smell hit them first. Stale air, fear, unwashed bodies, and industrial cleaner. Marcus had smelled it before, in places he tried not to remember. They descended into the bunker. The space was larger than Marcus expected. A concrete room divided by chain-link partitions into cells. Cots lined the walls. Buckets served as toilets. A camera in the corner recorded everything. And in the far cell, huddled together like animals, were 4 children. The oldest looked about 14. A boy with dark hair and hollow eyes that had seen too much. He positioned himself in front of the younger ones, 2 girls, maybe 10 and 12, and a small boy who couldn't be more than 8. "Stay back,"
the teenager said. His voice cracked, but he didn't move. "I'll fight you. I swear I'll fight." May stepped forward slowly, hands visible. "We're not here to hurt you. We're here to get you out." That's what the last one said. Marcus moved beside May. He met the teenager's eyes. Really met them. "My name is Marcus Cole. I'm a Navy SEAL. This is my team. And that's Storm, my partner." He gestured to the German Shepherd. "We're going to take you somewhere safe." The teenager's gaze dropped to Storm. The dog had moved to the chain-link fence and was pressing his nose through, tail wagging gently. The smallest child, the 8-year-old boy, reached toward Storm with trembling fingers. "Is he nice?" "He's the nicest," Marcus said. "He found a lady who was hurt tonight, saved her life, and he wanted to find you too. That's why we're here." The little boy touched Storm's nose. Storm licked his fingers. For the first time, the boy smiled. The teenager's shoulders dropped. "You're really taking us out of here?" "Right now, but we need to move fast." May was already checking the children, assessing their conditions with quick, professional efficiency. "They've been drugged. The little ones can barely walk. We'll have to carry them." "I can walk," the teenager said, "and I can help with Lily." He pointed to the 10-year-old girl. "What's your name?" "Tyler." "Okay, Tyler, stay close to me." Javier picked up the youngest boy. May took the 12-year-old girl. Marcus lifted the 10-year-old, Lily, and felt how light she was. Too light, like holding a ghost. They were almost to the bunker stairs when the alarm started screaming. Red lights strobed, sirens wailed. The element of surprise was gone. "Move!" Marcus shouted. They ran up the stairs, the children jostling in their arms. Storm led the way, checking corners, clearing the path. The hallway above was chaos. Guards converging from both directions, shouts of confusion mixing with orders. "Side exit!" Owen yelled. 50 feet left! Javier handed the small boy to May and drew his weapon. "I'll hold them off. Get the kids out."
Javier!
"Go, Marcus."
I'll catch up.
Marcus hesitated for one heartbeat. Then he ran. Behind him he heard Javier's voice. "Hey, over here, you pieces of—" Gunfire erupted. Marcus didn't look back. The side exit was ahead. Owen reached it first, key already in hand. He fumbled, dropped it, picked it up. "Come on, come on!" The lock clicked. The door swung open. Cold air hit Marcus's face like a blessing. They were outside. They were— "Nobody move!" Sheriff Hank Dawson stood 10 feet away. He wasn't alone. 4 deputies flanked him, weapons drawn. Dawson's face was a mask of disappointment. "I warned you, Cole. I warned you to go home." Marcus set Lily down slowly. His hand moved toward his weapon. "Don't." Dawson's gun centered on Marcus's chest. "Those kids belong to Mr. Harlan. Property, bought and paid for. You're going to put them down, step away, and we're going to pretend this never happened. And if I don't, then you die. Your friends die. The kids go where they were always going." Dawson shrugged. "Makes no difference to me." Tyler, the 14-year-old, stepped forward. His voice shook, but his eyes burned. "We're not property. We're people, and I won't go back." "Kid, shut up." "No." Tyler's voice grew stronger. "I won't. I won't shut up. You can't keep doing this. You can't." Dawson raised his weapon toward Tyler, and Storm launched. 70 pounds of muscle and fury hit Dawson in the chest, driving him backward. The gun discharged into the air. Deputies scattered, shouting in confusion. Marcus moved before conscious thought caught up. He hit the nearest deputy with a blow that dropped him, grabbed the second one's gun arm, twisted, heard bones snap. May had pushed the children behind her, shielding them with her body. Owen, quiet, scared Owen, had picked up a fallen weapon and was pointing it at the third deputy with hands that no longer shook. "Don't move," Owen said. "Don't you dare move." The fourth deputy looked at the chaos, at Storm pinning the sheriff, at his colleagues on the ground. He dropped his weapon and put his hands up. "I'm done," he said. "I'm done with all of it." Marcus zip-tied the deputies, while Storm kept Dawson immobilized. The sheriff was cursing, threatening, promising destruction. "You're dead, Cole. You're all dead. Harlan will—" Marcus knelt beside him, spoke quietly so only Dawson could hear. "Listen to me carefully. I've killed men in countries you can't find on a map. I've done things that keep me awake at night, but I've never sold a child." He let that sink in. "So when this is over, you better pray the FBI finds you before I do." Dawson went pale. Marcus stood. "Storm, guard." The dog settled onto Dawson's chest, making it clear that any movement would be his last. Javier emerged from the building, limping slightly, but alive. Blood on his sleeve, fire in his eyes. "We need to go. More coming." "How many?" "All of them." Marcus looked at the children, 4 small faces staring at him in the darkness, scared but hopeful, trusting him in a way that felt like a weight and a gift at the same time. "Okay," he said. "We run." They made it to the vehicles just as headlights appeared on the main road. More guards, more deputies. "May, take the kids in your SUV. Head for the county line. Don't stop for anyone." "Where are you going?" "To end this." May grabbed his arm. "Marcus!"
Those kids need to disappear before Harlan can track them. Get them to the FBI field office in Billings. Tell them everything. He pressed Owen's documents into her hands. This is the evidence. Guard it with your life.
May's eyes were bright with tears she wouldn't let fall.
You better come back, Marcus Cole.
I always come back. She loaded the children into the SUV. Tyler, the last one in, looked at Marcus through the window.
Thank you,
the teenager said. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're safe. The SUV disappeared into the night. Marcus turned to Javier and Owen. Harlan will be at the airstrip. He won't leave until he's sure the shipment is secure.
So we go to the airstrip.
Owen stepped forward. I'm coming.
This isn't your fight.
Yes, it is. Owen's voice was steady now, certain. I helped build this nightmare. I need to help tear it down. Marcus studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. They got into Javier's truck. Storm jumped in back, taking his position. The dashboard clock read 12:17 a.m. Midnight had passed. The children were supposed to be gone by now. Instead, they were heading toward freedom. But Victor Harlan didn't know that yet, and Marcus intended to deliver the news personally. The private airstrip was 20 miles east, carved into a valley that didn't appear on any map. Owen knew the way because he had processed payments for its construction, payments that never appeared in official records. There'll be a plane waiting, Owen said. A cargo plane. They strip out the seats, install restraints. The children, his voice caught. The children are loaded like freight. Not tonight. They approached without headlights, navigating by moonlight and memory. The airstrip appeared below them, a ribbon of concrete in the darkness, lit by portable lights. A plane sat at the far end, engines running. And standing beside a black sedan, phone pressed to his ear, was Victor Harlan. Even from this distance, Marcus could see the agitation in the man's posture. He was pacing, gesturing. Something had gone wrong with his plan. Good. Options? Javier asked. We take Harlan. We take the plane. We get evidence that connects this whole operation. And the men with him? Marcus counted. 3 guards, plus the pilot. We handle them. They left the truck and moved on foot, using the terrain for cover. Storm ranged ahead, silent and deadly. 50 yards from the plane, Storm stopped. His body went rigid. Marcus froze. One of the guards had a dog, a Belgian Malinois, also trained for security. The animal had caught Storm's scent and was alerting. Contact! The guard called. Something in the perimeter! Harlan stopped pacing. Find it. Kill it. The guard released his dog. The Malinois sprinted toward their position. Storm didn't wait. He ran to meet it. The 2 dogs collided in a fury of teeth and muscle. But Storm had years of combat experience. Within seconds, he had the Malinois pinned, not hurting it, just immobilizing it. Now! Marcus shouted. They broke cover. Javier took the first guard with a shot that dropped him instantly. The second guard spun, raising his weapon, and Marcus hit him with a tackle that sent them both tumbling. They rolled, exchanged blows. The guard was good, military training, solid technique. But Marcus was better. He ended it with a strike to the throat that left the man gasping. The third guard had grabbed Harlan, using him as a shield. Back off! The guard screamed. Back off or I put one in his head! Harlan's face was white with terror. Do what he says, please! Marcus stopped, raised his hands. Okay, let's talk. There's nothing to talk about. You're going to let us get on that plane. The children are gone. The guard blinked. What? The 4 kids you were supposed to transport tonight. They're in FBI custody right now, along with every document that traces this operation back to Victor Harlan. Marcus took a step forward. It's over. The only question is how it ends for you. The guard's eyes darted, calculating. I'm just hired help, he said finally. I don't know anything. Then put down the gun and walk away. A long moment. Then the guard shoved Harlan forward and ran for the darkness. Javier raised his weapon. Let him go, Marcus said. We have what we need. Harlan was on his knees in the dirt, expensive suit ruined, polished shoes scuffed. He looked up at Marcus with eyes that had finally understood fear. Please, he whispered. I have money. I have connections. Whatever you want. I want those children to grow up safe. I want them to have lives. I want them to forget your face. Marcus crouched in front of him. But they won't. They'll remember you until the day they die. And that's something all your money can never fix. I could make you rich. I've been rich in things you'll never understand. Owen stepped forward. The accountant's face was hard with a rage that had been building for years. Do you know what you did to them? Owen's voice cracked. Those children, they had names, they had families once, they had futures. And you turned them into numbers, line items, profit margins. Owen, be reasonable. I kept every record, every transaction, every name you sold, and every dollar you earned. Owen's tears fell freely now. And I'm going to watch them put you in a cage for the rest of your life. Harlan's face crumpled. You don't understand. The people I work with, they'll kill me. Prison won't protect me. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you started selling children. Marcus zip-tied Harlan's hands and hauled him to his feet. Javier, secure the plane. Make sure no one else is inside. Copy that. Marcus pulled out his phone, dialed a number he had gotten from Elena Vance's files. The FBI supervisor answered on the third ring. This is Marcus Cole. I have Victor Harlan in custody at a private airstrip east of Ridgecrest, Montana. I also have evidence of a child trafficking operation spanning at least 3 years. Your agent, Elena Vance, was right about everything. And I think you owe her an apology. Silence on the line. Then, don't move. We're sending helicopters. Marcus hung up. Storm trotted over, having released the Malinois once the threat passed. The dog pressed against Marcus's leg. Good boy, Marcus said. Good boy. He looked at the eastern horizon, where the first hint of dawn was beginning to show. The longest night of his life was almost over. But he knew, somehow, that the hardest part was still ahead. Because saving those children was only the beginning. Now came the reckoning. The FBI helicopters arrived 43 minutes after Marcus's call. 3 Blackhawks descending from the gray dawn sky, rotors beating the air into submission. Agents in tactical gear spread across the airstrip, securing Harlan, the plane, and every piece of evidence they could find. Marcus stood apart from the chaos. Storm pressed against his leg. His body ached in places he had forgotten existed. His hands were scraped raw from the fight. But none of that mattered. The children were safe. An agent approached him, tall, weathered, with the eyes of a man who had seen decades of human cruelty, and somehow kept going. You Marcus Cole? That's me. I'm Special Agent Director Thomas Webb, Denver Field Office. Webb looked at Storm, then back at Marcus. Agent Vance told us she'd be here. Said you were the one who found her. My dog found her. I just followed. Webb almost smiled. She also said he'd say that. He gestured toward a waiting helicopter. We need you in Billings for debriefing. Your friends, too. And the accountant. What about Harlan? Harlan is going to a very dark hole while we figure out exactly how deep this goes. Webb's jaw tightened, which, based on what we've already found, is deeper than anyone imagined. Marcus looked at the man being loaded into a separate helicopter. Victor Harlan, philanthropist, community pillar, monster. His expensive suit was ruined, his perfect hair was wild, and his eyes held the hollow terror of someone who had finally run out of money to hide behind.
He mentioned connections, Marcus said. Federal judges, congressmen.
I know. That's why I'm here personally. Webb met his gaze. This isn't just about one camp in Montana anymore. This is about a network. And networks have nodes. You're going to pull the whole thing down? Every last piece. Webb started walking toward the helicopters. Coming? Marcus whistled for Storm. The dog fell into step beside him. Behind them, the sun broke over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. A new day, a new beginning. But Marcus knew better than to celebrate too early. The hardest part of any mission wasn't the fight. It was what came after. The FBI field office in Billings was controlled chaos. Agents moved with urgent purpose. Phones rang constantly. Multiple screens displayed maps, financial records, and photographs that made Marcus's stomach turn. He sat in a conference room with Javier, May, and Owen, waiting for the next round of questions. Storm lay at his feet, finally resting after the longest night of both their lives.
"How long have we been here?" Javier asked, rubbing his eyes.
6 hours. Feels like 6 weeks. May was staring at her phone.
"The kids are with child services. They're safe." She looked up, eyes wet. "Tyler, the 14-year-old? He asked about you. Wanted to know if you were okay."
Marcus didn't trust his voice. He nodded. The door opened. Agent Webb entered, followed by a woman in a wheelchair, Elena Vance. Her arms were wrapped in fresh bandages. Her face was pale, drawn with pain and exhaustion. But her green eyes burned with the same fierce determination Marcus had seen on that frozen road.
"Agent Vance," Marcus stood.
"Should you be out of the hospital?"
"Probably not."
She wheeled herself to the table.
"But I've spent 3 months chasing this case while everyone told me I was crazy. I'm not missing the end."
Webb took a seat at the head of the table. "Agent Vance has been coordinating with our team since she regained consciousness. Her investigation, combined with the evidence you recovered, has given us enough to move forward."
"Move forward how?" Owen asked.
"Warrants, arrests, the systematic dismantling of everything Victor Harlan built." Webb pulled out a folder and spread photographs across the table. "But there's a problem." The photographs showed faces, men in suits, women in professional attire, government buildings, corporate logos. Harlan wasn't just running a local operation, Webb continued. He was a node in a network spanning 12 states. We've identified connections to 3 sitting judges, 2 state senators, and at least a dozen law enforcement officials. Javier leaned forward. "You're saying this goes all the way up?" "I'm saying we don't know how far up it goes yet." Webb's voice was grim. "Which means we don't know who we can trust." The room went silent. Elena spoke first. "That's why I came alone. 3 months ago, I briefed my supervisor on my findings. 2 weeks later, someone tried to run me off the road the first time. I survived. Barely. After that, I knew someone in the Bureau was compromised." "Do you know who?" May asked. "I have suspicions, but suspicions aren't evidence." Elena's hands clenched on the arms of her wheelchair. "What I do know is that the man who tried to kill me last night wasn't local. He was professional, trained, the kind of asset you don't hire unless you have serious resources and serious connections." Marcus thought about the men at Owen's cabin, the coordinated attack, the precision. "So, what's the play?" he asked. Webb and Elena exchanged a look. "We need to move fast," Webb said. before word spreads that Harlan is in custody, before the network has time to cover its tracks. He turned to Owen. You said you have records, everything Harlan tried to hide. I do. Names, dates, amounts, transport routes, buyer information. Owen's voice steadied. I kept copies of everything because I knew someday it would matter. We need you to testify. Owen went pale. They'll kill me. We can protect you. Can you? Owen's laugh was bitter. You just told us you don't know who's compromised. How can you protect me from people you can't identify? Webb didn't have an answer for that. Marcus spoke into the silence. I'll protect him. Everyone turned. Until this is over. Until the network is down and the trials are finished. Marcus met Owen's eyes. I'll make sure you stay alive long enough to testify. Why? Owen whispered. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. You kept those records when it would have been easier to destroy them. You helped us save 4 children last night. Marcus shrugged. That's enough. Owen stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, I'll testify. The next 72 hours were a blur. Warrants executed across Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho. Arrests made in the early morning hours. Suspects pulled from beds and offices and country clubs. Financial accounts frozen. Property seized. Marcus stayed close to Owen, moving him between safe houses as the investigation expanded. Javier and May rotated shifts, maintaining a protective perimeter that never relaxed. Storm was always alert, always watching, always ready. On the 3rd day, Elena Vance called Marcus to the hospital, where she was receiving follow-up treatment for her burns. We have a problem, she said when he arrived. Her room was private, guarded by 2 agents Webb trusted personally. She sat in bed, arms elevated on pillows, but her eyes were sharp. What kind of problem? Harlan is talking. Marcus frowned. Isn't that good? It would be, except he's not just talking about his network. Elena's voice dropped. He's talking about you. Me? Your father. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He felt his lungs tighten, his vision narrow. What about my father? Elena reached for a folder on her bedside table and handed it to him. Inside were documents, financial records, property transfers, correspondence. Your family's land. The property where Pinecrest Academy now sits. Your father sold it to Harlan in 2009. I know. We needed the money. My mother was sick. The sale price was 3 times market value. Marcus stopped. Your father didn't just sell land to Harlan, Elena said quietly. He was paid to look the other way. There's correspondence here suggesting he knew, or at least suspected, what Harlan was planning to build. The folder trembled in Marcus's hands. No. His voice was barely a whisper. My father was a lot of things. A drunk, a failure, but he wouldn't. I'm not saying he was part of the operation. The evidence suggests he took the money, asked no questions, and drank himself into oblivion over the next decade. Elena's eyes held sympathy. But Harlan's lawyers are going to use this. They're going to argue that you had a personal vendetta, that your investigation was tainted from the start. That's insane. I didn't even know about any of this until 2 days ago. I believe you, but belief isn't evidence. Elena leaned forward, wincing at the movement. They're going to try to destroy your credibility, Marcus. And if they succeed, everything we've built, every case, every arrest, every child we've saved, could collapse. Marcus stared at the documents. His father's signature, his father's handwriting, his father's silence all these years. What do I do? Find him. Marcus looked up. Your father. Find him. Get his testimony. Elena's voice hardened with urgency. If he admits what he did, If he explains that he didn't know the full scope of Harlan's plans, we can neutralize this before it becomes a weapon. I haven't spoken to my father in 3 years. Then maybe it's time to start. Marcus found his father in a trailer park outside Great Falls, 200 miles from Ridgecrest. Samuel Cole had aged 20 years in the decade since Marcus last saw him. His hair was gray and thin. His skin hung loose on a frame that had once been powerful. Empty bottles surrounded the lawn chair where he sat, staring at nothing. Storm stayed in the truck. Some reunions weren't meant for witnesses. Marcus approached slowly. His boots crunched on the gravel. His heart pounded with emotions he couldn't name. "Dad!" Samuel didn't move, didn't acknowledge, just kept staring. "Dad, I need to talk to you." "Go away, Marcus." The voice was rough, damaged by years of alcohol and silence. "Whatever it is, I can't help." "It's about the land, the property you sold to Harlan." Samuel flinched. Barely perceptible, but Marcus had been trained to notice. "Ancient history." "Not anymore. Victor Harlan was arrested 2 days ago. Child trafficking. He's been running a criminal operation on that land for years." Samuel said nothing, but his hands began to shake. "Did you know?" Still nothing. "Dad, look at me." Samuel Cole finally turned. His eyes were red-rimmed, hollow, haunted by something Marcus had never understood until this moment. "I suspected," Samuel whispered. "When he offered 3 times what the land was worth, I suspected. When he asked me to sign papers that didn't make sense, I suspected. When men came around asking questions and then disappeared, I suspected. And you did nothing?" "Your mother was dying," Samuel's voice cracked. "The medical bills, you don't know what it was like. We were going to lose everything, the house, the savings, everything we'd built. And then Harlan came with his checkbook and his smile, and I told myself—" He broke off, covering his face with trembling hands. "I told myself it was probably nothing, just business. Rich men did strange things with land all the time. Children, Dad. He was trafficking children." Samuel made a sound, half sob, half moan. "I know. God help me, I know now." Marcus felt rage building in his chest. Rage at his father, at Harlan, at a world that forced impossible choices and then punished people for making them. But beneath the rage was something else, something that felt like grief. "I need you to testify." Samuel looked up. "What?" "Harlan's lawyers are going to use the land sale against me. They're going to claim I have a personal vendetta. If you don't testify, if you don't explain what happened, every case we built could fall apart." "I can't." "You have to." "Marcus, if I testify, I admit to taking blood money. I go to prison. You should have thought about that before you cashed the check." The words hung in the air between them. Cruel. Necessary. True. Samuel stared at his son for a long moment. Then something shifted in his eyes. Something that might have been acceptance. "You always were the strong one," Samuel said quietly. "Even as a kid. You knew right from wrong in a way I never did." He reached for a bottle, then stopped, pulled his hand back. "When your mother was dying, she made me promise to tell you the truth someday. About the land. About what I did." "She knew?" "She suspected, just like I did. But she was dying, and I was a coward, and we both decided that silence was easier than honesty." Samuel's laugh was bitter. Some parents we turned out to be. Marcus felt something break inside him. The image of his mother, kind, gentle, always believing in him, shattered against the reality of who she had been. Human, flawed, desperate enough to accept blood money for one more month, one more treatment, one more chance. "I'll testify," Samuel said. Marcus blinked.
"What?"
I said, "I'll testify." Samuel pushed himself up from the lawn chair. His legs wobbled, but held. "I've been dying slowly for 10 years, Marcus, drinking myself to death, because I couldn't face what I did. Maybe this is my chance to finally do something right. You could go to prison." "I should go to prison." Samuel met his son's eyes. "But first, I help you tear down everything Victor Harlan built. And then," he shrugged, "then whatever happens, happens." Marcus didn't know what to say. He had come expecting a fight, expecting denial, expecting the same cowardice that had defined his father for as long as he could remember. He hadn't expected this. "Thank you," Marcus finally managed. Samuel shook his head. "Don't thank me. Not yet. Not ever, maybe." He looked toward the truck where Storm watched through the window. "That's your dog?" "Yeah." "Good dog?" "The best." Samuel nodded slowly. "Your mother always wanted us to get a dog." I said no. Too much trouble. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. I was wrong about a lot of things. Marcus brought his father to the FBI field office in Billings. The interview took 6 hours. Samuel Cole admitted everything: the suspicious payment, the willful ignorance, the years of guilt that had driven him to destroy himself rather than face the truth. When it was over, Webb pulled Marcus aside. "Your father's testimony changes things." "How?" "Harlan's lawyers were planning to attack your credibility. Now they can't. Not without opening a door they don't want opened." Webb's eyes were tired but satisfied. "We've got him, Marcus. We've got him cold." "What about my father?" "The U.S. Attorney is recommending immunity in exchange for his cooperation. Your father didn't participate in the trafficking. He just looked away." Webb shook his head. "It's not nothing, but it's not prison either." Marcus exhaled a breath he hadn't known he was holding. "There's something else," Webb said. "We found the man who ran Agent Vance off the road." "Where?" "Dead. Suicide in a motel room outside Spokane." "Except it wasn't really suicide." Webb's voice dropped. "Someone cleaned house. Someone didn't want him talking. The network. What's left of it? We've made dozens of arrests, but there are still pieces missing. Still people we haven't identified." Webb looked at Marcus with something approaching respect. "This isn't over. Not by a long shot." "I know. Are you in?" Marcus thought about Elena Vance, fighting through burns and bureaucracy to expose the truth. He thought about Tyler and the other children, finally safe after years of horror. He thought about his father, broken and guilty, but finally trying to make things right. And he thought about Storm, who had started this whole journey by pulling him toward a burning wreck on a frozen road. "I'm in." Elena was waiting when Marcus returned to her hospital room. "I heard about your father," she said. "News travels fast." "FBI, we're good at that." She gestured to a chair. "Sit. You look like you're about to fall over." Marcus sat. Storm settled at his feet with a heavy sigh. "How are you feeling?" Marcus asked. "Like someone set my arms on fire and then made me fill out paperwork about it." Elena almost smiled. "But I'll live, thanks to your dog." "He's good at his job." "So are you." Elena's expression grew serious. "Webb told me you agreed to keep working this case." "Someone has to finish what you started." "It wasn't just me. It was a 25-year-old FBI agent with a theory nobody believed, making calls at midnight and driving alone into places she had no business being." Elena shook her head. "I was reckless, stupid. I almost got myself killed. You also saved 4 children. We saved 4 children. Elena met his eyes.
I couldn't have done this without you, Marcus. You or Storm or any of the others.
That's how it works. Nobody saves the world alone. Elena laughed. A real laugh, the first one Marcus had heard from her. That sounds like something a Navy SEAL would say. Former Navy SEAL. Once a SEAL, always a SEAL. She leaned back against her pillows, exhaustion finally showing through. What happens now? Now we rest, heal, and when you're ready, we finish tearing down the network.
Together? Marcus looked at Storm.
The dog's eyes were closed, but his ears were alert, always listening, always ready.
Together.
Elena reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were bandaged, clumsy, but the gesture carried weight.
Thank you, Marcus, for stopping when you could have driven by, for believing me when no one else did.
Thanks, Storm. He's the one who made me stop.
I already did.
Elena smiled softly.
While you were gone, I had them bring him up here.
He sat beside my bed for an hour, just watching, like he was making sure I was okay. Marcus felt something warm spread through his chest. Pride, gratitude, a connection that went deeper than words. He does that, Marcus said. He adopts people.
Good. I could use a friend like him.
Elena's eyes were growing heavy.
Stay? Just for a little while?
Marcus settled deeper into his chair. Storm shifted, pressing closer to both of them. I'm not going anywhere. Outside the window, the sun was setting over the Montana mountains. Another day ending. Another night beginning. But this time, Marcus wasn't dreading the darkness. This time, he knew exactly what he was fighting for. And he wasn't fighting alone. 3 weeks after the raid on Pinecrest Academy, Victor Harlan's empire began to crumble in ways no one had predicted. Marcus sat in the FBI conference room in Billings, watching the evidence wall grow larger every day. Photographs. Financial records. Names connected by red string like a spider's web of human misery. 47 children recovered across 3 states. 12 arrests and counting. And still, the investigation kept expanding. We've got another one, Webb announced, striding into the room with a folder. State Senator Richardson, Wyoming. Been funneling kids through his ranch for the past 5 years under the guise of a youth mentorship program. Javier whistled low. A sitting senator. Former sitting senator, as of an hour ago. Webb dropped the folder on the table. He resigned before we could arrest him, trying to negotiate a deal. What kind of deal? Elena asked. She was out of her wheelchair now, moving carefully with bandaged arms, but present at every briefing, every meeting, every step forward. Full cooperation in exchange for witness protection. Webb's jaw tightened. He claims he can give us names we don't have yet. Bigger names. Marcus looked at the evidence wall. So many faces. So many crimes.
How much bigger can this get?
That's what scares me. Webb rubbed his eyes. Every time we think we've found the top, there's another layer. Owen Mercer entered the room, looking healthier than he had 3 weeks ago. Regular meals, proper sleep, and the weight of confession lifted from his shoulders had transformed him. He wasn't whole, might never be, but he was trying. I finished reviewing the new financial records, Owen said. Richardson's ranch connects to a shell company in Delaware that connects to a private equity fund that connects to... He paused, checking his notes. A nonprofit called Children's Future Initiative. Elena sat up straighter. I know that organization. They lobby Congress for foster care reform. They also funnel money to at least 6 judges who oversee family court cases in 4 states. Owen spread papers across the table. The system is designed to push specific children into specific placements. Kids who won't be missed. Kids whose cases get lost in the shuffle. The room went silent. They weaponized the foster system, May said quietly. She had stayed on after the rescue, unable to walk away from the children she had helped save. They used the very system meant to protect children as a hunting ground. That's exactly what they did, Owen's voice cracked. I helped them do it. Every financial report I filed, every number I buried, I helped them hunt children. Marcus put a hand on Owen's shoulder. You're helping stop them now. That's what matters. Is it? Owen looked at him with haunted eyes. Does it matter when I close my eyes and see their faces? Nobody had an answer. The first trial began on a Tuesday in late March. Victor Harlan sat at the defendant's table, wearing an orange jumpsuit instead of his tailored suits. His lawyer, a high-priced defense attorney from New York, had tried every delay tactic in the book. Motions to dismiss, challenges to evidence, claims of prosecutorial misconduct. All denied. Marcus sat in the gallery with Elena, Storm lying at their feet. The judge had made an exception for the dog after learning his role in the case. Service animals were one thing. Heroes were another. The prosecution's opening statement took 2 hours. The crimes were laid bare. Trafficking, conspiracy, money laundering, assault, attempted murder. Each charge carried weight. Each count represented a child's stolen future. When the defense rose to speak, Harlan's lawyer tried a different approach. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my client is a philanthropist, a community leader, a man who has given millions to schools, hospitals, and charitable organizations across this state. The lawyer gestured toward Marcus. The key witness against him is the son of a man who took money from my client. Money that, by his own admission, was blood money. Elena's hand found Marcus's. Squeezed. The prosecution wants you to believe that Victor Harlan is a monster. But the evidence will show something different. It will show a man who trusted the wrong people. A man whose charitable organizations were exploited by criminals without his knowledge. Marcus felt anger rise in his chest. Harlan sat there looking appropriately troubled, appropriately innocent, a performance polished by weeks of coaching. We will demonstrate that my client is also a victim in this tragedy. And when the evidence is examined, truly examined, you will have no choice but to find him not guilty. The lawyer sat down. The judge called a recess. In the hallway, Marcus leaned against the wall, fighting the urge to punch something. He's going to walk, Marcus said. He's going to blame everyone else and walk out of here free. No, he won't. Elena's voice was steady. We have too much. Owen's testimony alone connects Harlan directly to the trafficking operation. Add the financial records, the transport manifests, the witness statements from the guards who flipped. His lawyer is good. Our evidence is better. Elena touched his arm. Have faith, Marcus. Faith in what? The system? Marcus laughed bitterly. The same system that let this happen for years? Faith in the truth, Elena met his eyes, and faith in the people who refuse to stop fighting for it. Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Cole. Mr. Cole. A voice he didn't recognize. Smooth, calm, confident. I represent certain interests who are concerned about the current legal proceedings. Who is this? Someone who can make your problems disappear. All of them. A pause. We know about your father's testimony. We know about the deals being negotiated. And we know that you have become inconvenient. Marcus's blood ran cold. Are you threatening me? I'm offering you an opportunity.
$10 million deposited in any account you choose. In exchange, you develop memory problems. Your testimony becomes unreliable. The case against Mr. Harlan weakens.
And if I refuse? Then accidents happen. The voice hardened. To you. To Agent Vance. To the children you think you've saved. You've only recovered 47. Do you know how many we've moved in the past decade? Thousands. And we will continue, with or without Victor Harlan. The line went dead. Marcus stared at his phone.
What is it?
Elena asked. They're not done. The network, whoever's really running it, they're not done. Marcus's hands were shaking. They just offered me $10 million to throw the case. And they threatened you, the kids, everyone. Elena's face went pale, then hardened. Did you trace the call? Unknown number. We need to tell Webb. I know. Marcus looked at her. But Elena, they mentioned thousands of children. We've only found 47. The weight of that number hung between them like a stone. Webb's response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, security details were assigned to every witness, every rescued child, every person connected to the case. Marcus, Elena, Owen, May, Javier, all placed under protective surveillance. We've dealt with threats before, Webb said in the emergency briefing, but this is different. This is organized, coordinated. Someone with resources is trying to shut this down. Do we know who? Javier asked. Not yet, but we're working on it. Webb turned to Owen. The financial records you provided, is there anything else? Anything you might have missed? Owen thought hard, his brow furrowed. There was one file I could never access. Harlan called it the Black Ledger. Kept it separate from everything else. Password protected with encryption I couldn't crack. Where is it? His home office, hidden safe behind a painting in his study. Owen shook his head. I only saw it once. He was drunk, showing off. He said it contained the real client list, names of buyers. Webb leaned forward. We searched that house. We didn't find any safe. It's disguised. The painting, it's a portrait of his grandfather. The frame is part of the mechanism. Webb was already reaching for his phone. The search team found the safe 4 hours later. The Black Ledger was everything Owen had described and more. Names, addresses, photographs, transaction records going back 15 years. And one name that made Webb go pale. Deputy Attorney General Franklin Pierce. Marcus felt the floor shift beneath him. The Deputy AG? Third highest ranking law enforcement official in the country. Webb's voice was barely a whisper. He's been on the buyer list for 12 years. The room erupted.
That's why the network keeps surviving, Elena said, her voice rising. That's why they always seem to be one step ahead. They have someone at the top of the Justice Department.
We can't move on this publicly, Webb said. If Pierce gets any warning, he'll destroy evidence, disappear witnesses.
So what do we do?
Webb looked at the ledger, at the name, at the proof of betrayal at the highest levels of American law enforcement. We go outside the system. The plan was elegant in its simplicity and terrifying in its implications. Webb reached out to contacts he trusted absolutely. A federal judge in Virginia, an inspector general with an unblemished record, and a journalist from the Washington Post who had spent 30 years exposing government corruption. Everything was coordinated in secret. No official channels, no paper trails. Nothing that Pierce could intercept or influence. The story would break at 6 a.m. Eastern on the morning of Harlan's verdict, regardless of what that verdict was. We're betting everything on this, Elena said the night before. She and Marcus sat in a safe house, Storm lying across both their feet. If it doesn't work, it'll work. But if it doesn't, Elena. Marcus took her hands, carefully, mindful of the burn still healing beneath her bandages. 3 weeks ago, I was driving mountain roads at midnight because I couldn't face my own nightmares. My dog pulled me toward a burning wreck, and I found you, dying, alone, carrying a truth nobody would believe. His voice caught. You didn't give up. Not when your supervisor dismissed you. Not when someone tried to kill you. Not when you woke up in a hospital with burns on your arms and learned that everything you'd worked for had gone up in flames. Marcus squeezed her hands. If you can keep fighting after all that, then I can believe this will work. Elena's eyes glistened. You really think I'm that strong? I think you're the strongest person I've ever met. And I've met a lot of people in places where strength was the only thing keeping them alive. She leaned forward and kissed him. It was gentle, brief, a promise more than a passion. When she pulled back, she was smiling. Don't let Storm get jealous. Marcus laughed, a real laugh, the first in weeks. Too late. He's already glaring at me. Storm's tail thumped against the floor. The verdict came at 2:47 p.m. The jury foreman stood, paper trembling slightly in his hands. On the count of conspiracy to commit human trafficking, we find the defendant guilty. Harlan's face went white. On the count of money laundering, guilty. His lawyer started whispering urgently. On the count of assault, guilty. Harlan gripped the table like a drowning man. On the count of attempted murder, guilty. The courtroom erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Harlan slumped in his chair as if the guilty verdicts had physically struck him. Marcus felt Elena's hand squeeze his. He looked at her, at the tears streaming down her face, at the relief and triumph and exhaustion all mixed together, and he understood something he had been fighting for weeks. This was just the beginning. Justice for Victor Harlan was one battle. The war was still being fought. The story broke at exactly 6 a.m. the next morning. Every major news network, every newspaper, every online platform. Deputy AG named in child trafficking ring. Evidence shows years of corruption. Franklin Pierce was arrested at his Georgetown townhouse while still in his pajamas. The photographs showed a man who had wielded immense power suddenly reduced to handcuffs and humiliation. Within hours, the dominoes began falling. 3 more judges removed from the bench, 2 state legislators arrested, a CEO of a major corporation named as a buyer, and in Ridgecrest, Montana, a town that had once trusted Victor Harlan, began to reckon with the truth. Marcus returned 2 weeks after the verdict. He wasn't sure why. Maybe to see for himself that the nightmare was really ending. Maybe to make peace with the place where everything had started. Storm walked beside him through the quiet streets. People stared. Some whispered. A few approached to shake his hand, tears in their eyes. "Thank you," an elderly woman said outside the grocery store. "My granddaughter, she was in foster care here. She told me stories I didn't want to believe." The woman's voice broke. "Now I know she was telling the truth." Marcus didn't know what to say. He nodded and kept walking. He found Elena at the site where Pinecrest Academy had once stood. The buildings were gone now, demolished by court order, the land seized by the federal government. She stood alone, staring at the empty space. "They're going to build a community center here," she said without turning around. "Trauma counseling, job training, support services for families." "That's good." "Is it?" Elena finally looked at him. "Does it make up for what happened? Does a community center erase 15 years of stolen children?" No, but it's a start. Elena's shoulders slumped.
Tyler came to see me yesterday. The 14-year-old from the rescue.
How is he?
Broken. Healing. Both.
Elena wiped her eyes.
He asked me if the nightmares ever stop. I didn't know what to tell him.
Marcus stood beside her, close enough to touch, but not touching. You tell him the truth. The nightmares don't stop. They just change. They become something you carry instead of something that carries you. He paused. And you tell him that he's not alone, that there are people who understand, people who will help him carry the weight. Elena leaned into him. He put his arm around her shoulders.
I'm being reassigned, she said quietly.
Where?
Washington. A new task force focused on trafficking networks. They want me to help build it from the ground up.
She looked up at him.
They offered me a partner position. I can choose whoever I want.
Marcus's heart beat faster.
Anyone?
Anyone with the right qualifications. A small smile crossed her face. Know any former Navy SEALs with experience in counter-trafficking operations and a really good dog? Storm's ears perked up at the word dog.
I might know someone.
He'd have to move to D.C.
He's moved before.
It would be dangerous work.
He's done dangerous work.
Elena turned to face him fully. Marcus, I'm asking if you'll come with me. He looked at her. This 25-year-old FBI agent who had survived being burned alive, who had fought through a system that tried to silence her, who had helped rescue 47 children from a nightmare that should have been impossible in modern America. He looked at Storm, his partner, his friend, the dog who had started this whole journey by refusing to let a dying woman be forgotten on a frozen road. And he looked at himself, a man who had spent 3 years running from ghosts, only to discover that the best way to escape the past was to build a future worth living.
Yes.
Elena's smile broke through the clouds. Yes?
Yes. I'll come with you.
Marcus pulled her close. Wherever this goes, however long it takes, I'm in. Storm barked once, sharp, decisive, as if abbing his vote. Elena laughed and buried her face in Marcus's chest. They stood there on the empty ground where evil had once thrived, holding each other while the Montana wind swept across the mountains. It wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. The final piece fell into place on a Thursday afternoon in Washington, D.C. Marcus sat in a Senate hearing room, Storm beside him, watching as testimony was delivered that would reshape American law enforcement for generations. The Children's Protection and Accountability Act, drafted in response to the Harlan case, was about to pass with overwhelming bipartisan support. Mandatory reporting requirements, enhanced oversight of foster care placement, severe penalties for anyone who exploited the system, and a new federal task force led by Special Agent Elena Vance, dedicated to hunting the networks that preyed on children. Elena approached the microphone for her testimony. Her arms were healed now, scarred but functional. Her voice was strong. 3 months ago, I was a junior agent with a theory no one believed. I drove alone into the mountains because I couldn't trust anyone in my own bureau. Someone tried to kill me. They burned my car, burned my arms, and left me to die on a frozen road. She paused, met Marcus's eyes across the room. I survived because a Navy SEAL and his dog happened to be driving that same road. Because he stopped when he could have kept going. Because his dog sensed something that human eyes couldn't see. Storm's tail wagged at the attention. Since then, we have rescued 47 children. We have arrested 73 people across 12 states. We have exposed corruption at the highest levels of our government. Elena's voice hardened. But we have also learned that thousands of children have been moved through these networks over the past 15 years. Most of them will never be found. Most of them have no graves, no records, No names. The room was absolutely silent. This legislation is not a victory. It is a beginning, a promise to every child who was stolen, every family who was destroyed, every survivor who carries scars visible and invisible. Elena looked directly at the cameras. We will find you. We will fight for you. And we will never stop. She stepped back from the microphone. The room erupted in applause. That night, Marcus and Elena stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, watching the lights of Washington reflect off the Potomac. Storm sat between them, dignified and calm, as if monuments were built for dogs like him. You did good today, Marcus said. We did good. Elena leaned against his shoulder. All of us. What happens now? Now we get to work. Build the task force. Chase the networks that are still operating. Save as many as we can. Until when? Elena was quiet for a moment. Until there's no one left to save. Marcus thought about that. The endless nature of it. The weight of a mission that might never truly end. But then he looked at Storm. Faithful, tireless, forever pointing toward the next person who needed help. And he understood. Some fights weren't about winning. They were about refusing to stop. They were about showing up every day, even when the odds seemed impossible. They were about being the person who stopped on a frozen road when everyone else drove by. I can live with that, Marcus said. Elena took his hand. Storm pressed against both their legs, and somewhere in the darkness, a child who would never know their names slept a little safer because they had chosen to fight. 6 months after the Senate hearing, Marcus Cole received a phone call that changed everything again. He was in the D.C. field office, reviewing case files with Elena, when his phone buzzed. The number was from Ridgecrest, Montana. Cole. Mr. Cole? A woman's voice, elderly and trembling. This is Martha Dawson, the sheriff's wife. Marcus went still. Hank Dawson had been sentenced to 25 years in federal prison 3 months ago. His wife had disappeared from public life, refusing all contact with investigators. Mrs. Dawson, what can I do for you? I need to see you, in person. There's something, her voice broke. There's something my husband never told anyone. Something that changes everything. What kind of something? The children. The ones who were never found. Martha's breath caught. I know where they are. Marcus's blood turned to ice. I'll be there tomorrow. The flight to Montana felt endless. Elena sat beside him, reviewing the case files they had accumulated over 6 months of investigation. Storm lay in the cargo hold below, sedated for the journey, but never far from Marcus's thoughts. We've recovered 47 children, Elena said quietly. But the Black Ledger showed transactions for over 200 in the past decade alone. 153 still missing. Most presumed dead or trafficked overseas. Elena closed her eyes. Every time I think we found the bottom, there's another layer. Maybe this is different. Maybe. Elena didn't sound convinced. Or maybe it's a trap. Martha Dawson has been silent for 6 months. Why reach out now? Only one way to find out. They landed in Billings and drove the remaining distance in a rental car. Storm sat in the back seat, alert and watchful, as if he sensed the gravity of what was coming. Martha Dawson lived in a small house on the outskirts of Ridgecrest, the kind of house that looked forgettable, which was probably the point. She answered the door on the first knock. 70 years old, gray-haired, with eyes that had seen too much and kept too many secrets. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Please, come in." The living room was modest. Family photographs lined the walls. Martha and Hank in younger days, smiling at barbecues and church functions. The images felt like relics from another world. Martha sat heavily in an armchair. Her hands shook as she folded them in her lap.
"I've been a coward," she began. "For 30 years, I've been a coward. I told myself I didn't know. Told myself Hank was just doing his job. But I knew. Deep down, I always knew."
Elena leaned forward. "Mrs. Dawson, what exactly did you know?"
"Everything."
Martha's voice cracked.
"The children, the money, the network. I knew because I helped build it."
Marcus felt the floor shift beneath him. "You were part of the operation?" "Not willingly. At first." Martha wiped her eyes. "Hank got involved in the 70s. Small things at first, looking the other way, losing paperwork. But it grew. And once you're in that deep, there's no getting out."
"Why are you telling us this now?"
"Because I'm dying." Martha met his eyes. "Pancreatic cancer. 3 months, maybe less. And I can't meet my maker carrying this weight." She reached beneath her chair and pulled out a leather-bound journal.
"This is everything. Names, dates, locations, including the ones who never made it into Harlan's records."
Her hands trembled as she held it out.
"Including the burial sites."
Elena took the journal like it might explode. "Burial sites?"
"Not all the children were sold."
Martha's voice dropped to a whisper.
"Some were damaged, too broken to be useful. They were disposed of, quietly, in places no one would ever look."
Marcus felt sick. "How many?"
37.
"Over the past 20 years. Martha was crying now, tears streaming down her weathered face.
"I helped bury 3 of them myself. Hank made me, said it would keep me compliant, keep me quiet."
The room was silent, except for Martha's sobs. Elena opened the journal, flipped through pages filled with neat handwriting, dates, coordinates.
"These locations, they're scattered across 3 counties. Different properties, abandoned mines, old wells, places where the earth keeps secrets."
Martha looked at Marcus.
"I know you hate me. I know I deserve worse than dying. But those children deserve to be found. They deserve to go home."
Marcus didn't know what to say. The rage in his chest warred with something else, a terrible pity for a woman who had been complicit in evil and was now trying, too late, to make it right. "We'll find them," he finally said. "Every single one." Martha nodded.
"There's one more thing. Something Hank never told Harlan. Never told anyone except me."
"What?" "The real person in charge. The one who built the network before Harlan was even born." Martha's voice dropped. "It wasn't Franklin Pierce. It wasn't any of the names in the Black Ledger. The real founder is still out there, still operating, and he's been watching you since the beginning." The name Martha gave them was Raymond Cross, 83 years old, former CIA operative, retired in 1985 to pursue private interests. According to Martha's journal, Cross had built the trafficking network in the 1960s, using contacts from his intelligence work to create supply chains that moved children across borders like commodities. He had recruited Hank Dawson in 1978, Victor Harlan in 1995, Franklin Pierce in 2003. For 60 years, Raymond Cross had operated in the shadows, building an empire of misery that stretched across continents, and he had never been caught.
"Because he was never greedy,"
Elena said, studying the file they had assembled.
"Look at this. No properties in his name, no unusual wealth. Lives on a modest pension in a suburb of Phoenix. Drives a 10-year-old car. Attends church every Sunday."
"Perfect cover," Javier said. He had flown in from Montana the moment Marcus called. May was with him, unable to stay away.
"A monster hiding behind a smile."
"How do we prove it?" Owen asked. He was still part of the team. His testimony had been crucial in a dozen prosecutions, and his financial expertise continued to uncover hidden connections.
"Martha's testimony won't be enough," Elena said. She's dying. Her credibility is compromised. We need physical evidence.
Marcus stared at the photograph of Raymond Cross, an elderly man with white hair, kind eyes, and a smile that belonged on a grandfather. The face of evil. Then we get physical evidence. Phoenix in August was brutal, but Marcus barely noticed the heat. He sat in a rental car outside Raymond Cross's modest ranch house, Storm panting beside him in the air conditioning. Elena was in a surveillance van 2 blocks away, monitoring communications. Javier and May held backup positions on parallel streets. They had been watching Cross for 3 days. His routine was perfect. Church on Sunday, grocery shopping on Tuesday, a weekly poker game with other retirees on Thursday. No visitors, no suspicious contacts, nothing that suggested he was the architect of a 60-year criminal empire. Maybe Martha was wrong, Elena said through the earpiece. She wasn't wrong. How do you know? Marcus watched Cross emerge from his front door, moving with the slow deliberation of an elderly man. Because he's too perfect. Nobody's routine is this clean. Cross got into his car and drove away. The team followed at a distance, expecting another mundane errand. Instead, Cross drove to the airport. He's getting on a plane, Elena reported. Private charter. Filed a flight plan to Managua, Nicaragua, a country with loose extradition laws and the thriving underground economy. He knows, Marcus said. Somehow he knows we're onto him. We have to move now. We don't have enough evidence. If he gets on that plane, we lose him forever. Marcus made a decision. Storm, ready to work? The dog's ears perked up. Marcus grabbed his go-bag and headed for the terminal. The private aviation section of the airport was quieter than the main terminals. Fewer crowds, fewer witnesses. Cross was moving toward a waiting Gulfstream when Marcus intercepted him. Mr. Cross. The old man turned. His eyes, pale blue, almost colorless, assessed Marcus with the cold calculation of a predator. Do I know you? Marcus Cole, Navy SEAL, retired. Currently working with the FBI on a joint task force investigating child trafficking. Cross's expression didn't change. That sounds like important work. How can I help? You can start by explaining why you're fleeing the country. Fleeing? Cross smiled. Warm, grandfatherly, utterly false. I'm visiting an old friend. I've had this trip planned for months. Then you won't mind answering a few questions before you go? I'm afraid I'm running late. Storm stepped forward and growled. Cross looked at the dog. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, perhaps. Or fear. That's a beautiful animal, Cross said carefully. German Shepherd? He's good at finding things. People. Evidence. Marcus moved closer. And right now, he seems very interested in your carry-on bag. Cross's hand tightened on the bag's strap. I don't know what you think you found, Mr. Cole, but I'm an 83-year-old retiree with no criminal record and no connection to whatever case you're investigating. Martha Dawson disagrees. The name hit Cross like a physical blow. His mask slipped for just a moment, long enough for Marcus to see the monster beneath. Martha Dawson is a troubled woman married to a convicted criminal. Her testimony means nothing. Her journal means everything. 37 burial sites, 60 years of transactions. Your name on documents going back to 1963. Cross recovered quickly. Fabrications. I'll have my lawyers. You don't have lawyers anymore. Your network is gone. Harlan is in prison. Pierce is in prison. The judges, the senators, the buyers, all gone. Marcus stepped even closer. You're alone, Mr. Cross. For the first time in 60 years, you're completely alone. Cross stared at him. The grandfatherly facade crumbled. You have no idea what you've done. Cross said quietly. His voice had changed, colder, harder. I've spent 60 years building something that served powerful people, people who will not be pleased that you've interfered. I'll take my chances, will you? Cross's smile returned, but it was different now. Predatory. What about Agent Vance? What about your friends? What about those children you think you've saved? Marcus felt rage building in his chest. Is that a threat? It's a reality. You can arrest me. You can put me in a cell. But the network doesn't die because one old man goes to prison. It adapts. It survives. It has always survived. Not this time. Cross laughed, a dry, papery sound. You really believe that, don't you? You think you're the hero, the Navy SEAL who saves the day. He shook his head. I've watched men like you for 60 years. Idealists, true believers. They always break eventually. I'm not going to break. Everyone breaks, Mr. Cole. It's just a matter of finding the right pressure point. Cross's eyes drifted to Storm. That dog, for instance. You love him. I can see it. What would you sacrifice to keep him safe? Marcus's fists clenched. Or Agent Vance, young, passionate, already scarred from her last encounter with my organization. Cross tilted his head. What would you do if something happened to her? Touch her, and I'll kill you myself. There it is, Cross smiled. The rage beneath the righteousness. You're not a hero, Mr. Cole. You're just another broken soldier pretending to be whole. Marcus wanted to hit him, wanted to make him bleed for every child he had stolen, every life he had destroyed. But he didn't. Instead, he reached for his phone and called Elena. I have him. Come make the arrest. Cross's smile faded. You think this changes anything? No. I think it changes everything. Marcus looked him in the eye. You spent 60 years in the shadows. Now you're going to spend whatever time you have left in the light. Every victim, every crime, every name in that journal. The whole world is going to know exactly what you are. For the first time, Raymond Cross looked afraid. The arrest made international headlines. Trafficking mastermind captured after 6 decades. FBI credits. Navy SEAL and K-9 for breakthrough. The story dominated news cycles for weeks. Martha Dawson's journal was authenticated. The burial sites were excavated. 37 sets of remains were recovered. Children who had been missing for decades, finally going home. Raymond Cross was charged with 147 counts spanning federal and international jurisdictions. His trial would take years. His conviction was certain. But for Marcus, the moment that mattered most came on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in Ridgecrest. The community center had been built on the site where Pinecrest Academy once stood. It was dedicated to trauma recovery, job training, and family services. Everything Harlan's camp had pretended to be, made real. Marcus stood at the entrance with Elena, watching families stream in for the dedication ceremony. Storm sat between them, dignified and calm. You okay? Elena asked. Yeah, just thinking. About what? About that night, the road, the fire. Marcus looked at her. If Storm hadn't pulled me off the highway, none of this would have happened. You would have died. The children would have disappeared. Cross would still be operating. Elena took his hand. But Storm did pull you over, and you did stop. And here we are. Here we are. A voice called out from the crowd. Mr. Cole! Marcus turned. Tyler, the 14-year-old who had protected the younger children in that basement, walked toward him. He was 16 now, taller, stronger, still carrying scars, but no longer defined by them. "Tyler," Marcus shook his hand. "You look good." "I feel good, most days." Tyler's eyes went to Storm. "Can I?" "Of course." Tyler knelt and wrapped his arms around the German shepherd. Storm leaned into the embrace, tail wagging gently. "I never thanked you properly," Tyler said, looking up at Marcus. "That night, when you came into the basement, I thought it was over. I thought we were going to disappear like the others. And then you showed up with this dog, and I knew," his voice cracked, "I knew we were going to be okay." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "You protected those kids, Tyler. You're the reason they made it." "We protected them together." Tyler stood. "I'm starting college next fall. Criminal justice. I want to do what you do, what Agent Vance does." Elena smiled. "The Bureau could use more people like you." "I don't know about that, but I know I can't just go back to normal. After what happened, after what I saw." Tyler's jaw set with determination. "I have to do something. I have to help." Marcus put a hand on the young man's shoulder. "That's exactly how I felt after Afghanistan. Like I couldn't just walk away." He paused. "It's a hard path, Tyler. It takes everything you have. But it's worth it." "I know." Tyler looked at the community center. "Every time I see a kid smile who was saved from something terrible, I know it's worth it." The ceremony was simple but powerful. The mayor spoke. The governor sent a video message. Survivors shared their stories, carefully, protected by counselors, with faces blurred for privacy. And then it was Marcus's turn. He hadn't planned to speak, but when the organizers asked, he couldn't say no. He stood at the podium, Storm at his side, and looked out at the crowd. Survivors, families, law enforcement officers, journalists, regular citizens who had come to witness something meaningful. "6 months ago," Marcus began, "I was driving through these mountains at midnight. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I was just running. From nightmares, from memories, from a life that felt like it had ended the day I came home from war." He paused. "My dog had different plans." A soft laugh rippled through the crowd. "Storm pulled me off that road, made me stop, made me look. And what I found was a woman dying in the snow, an FBI agent who had been hunting a monster nobody else believed existed." Marcus looked at Elena. She could have given up. She could have died that night and let the secret die with her. But she didn't. She fought. And because she fought, 47 children are alive today. Applause. Elena wiped her eyes. "I want to tell you something important," Marcus continued. "Something I've learned in the past 6 months. Evil eye doesn't win because it's stronger than good. Evil wins when good people choose not to see. When we drive past instead of stopping. When we tell ourselves it's someone else's problem. When we convince ourselves that one person can't make a difference." He leaned forward. "One person can make a difference. One FBI agent with a theory nobody believed. One accountant who kept records when he could have destroyed them. One old man who remembered a forgotten tunnel. One dog who refused to ignore what his senses knew." Storm's tail wagged. "And here's the truth that shocked this town. The truth that I hope shocks everyone listening. The monsters who hurt these children weren't strangers. They were neighbors, business owners, law enforcement, pillars of the community. They smiled at church and donated to schools and shook hands at parades. They looked like everyone else." The crowd was absolutely silent. "That means stopping them requires everyone else. It requires us to pay attention, to trust our instincts, to speak up when something feels wrong, To be the person who stops on a frozen road when it would be easier to keep driving. Marcus stepped back from the podium. Those 37 children we found in unmarked graves, they didn't have anyone who stopped for them. They disappeared because the world looked away. But the 47 we saved, and the thousands more who will be saved because of what we've started here, they prove that it doesn't have to be this way. We can choose differently. We can be better. He looked at Storm. My dog taught me that. He pulled me towards someone who needed help, and he didn't let go until I understood. That's all any of us has to do. Find someone who needs help. Don't let go. Marcus stepped away from the microphone. The applause was thunderous. That night, Marcus and Elena stood outside the community center, watching the last of the crowd disperse. Storm lay at their feet, finally resting after the longest journey of all their lives. "What happens now?" Elena asked. "Now, we keep going. There are more networks, more children, more monsters hiding behind smiles." "That sounds exhausting." "It is." Marcus pulled her close. "But it's also the only thing worth doing." Elena rested her head against his shoulder. "I got a call today." "From Tyler's sister. She wanted to thank us for giving her brother back." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that Tyler saved himself. We just opened the door." Storm lifted his head and looked at them both. His brown eyes were wise, knowing, the eyes of a creature who had seen the worst of humanity and still believed in the best. Marcus reached down and scratched behind the dog's ears. "Good boy," he said. "Good boy." Storm's tail thumped against the ground, and somewhere in the darkness, in cities and towns across the country, other dogs were pulling their owners toward frozen roads. Other agents were chasing theories nobody believed. Other witnesses were keeping records that might someday matter. The network was broken, but evil was not defeated. It never would be. But neither would the people who chose to fight it. That was the truth that shocked the entire town, and the truth that would save countless lives for generations to come. Some battles are never won, but the refusal to stop fighting, that is the only victory that matters. Marcus Cole walked out of Ridgecrest with Elena Vance beside him and Storm at his heel. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. He didn't know how many more children needed saving, how many more monsters needed stopping, how many more roads he would have to walk before his journey ended. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He would never stop. Not while there were children who needed protecting. Not while there were monsters who needed exposing. Not while there was breath in his lungs and a dog at his side who refused to let the world look away. This is what it means to choose good over comfort. This is what it means to be human. And this is the story of how one man, one woman, and one faithful German shepherd saved 47 children, exposed 60 years of evil, and proved that love, real love, the kind that acts instead of speaks, is the most powerful force in the universe. May God bless you. May He protect you on every road you travel, and may you always have the courage to stop when something inside you says, "Not yet, not today, this one matters." Because every single one of them does. Every single child, every single life, every single soul. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs hope. Comment your city and your pet's name below, and remember, you might be the one person standing between someone's darkest hour and their answered prayer. Be that person. The world is waiting.